Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Health Made Simple Show. I'm your host, Dr. Bart, and today, kind of a special episode, meaning special that I am recording this outside of my farm here today. So if you're watching this live, you'll see in the background, I guess you'll see a big old field and maybe some water in the background. And you might even hear some chickens if you're just listening to this on Spotify or something to that, or something like that. All right, so if you think you're hearing chickens or a rooster in the background, it is because you are. And then the X factors, I'm not really sure what the dogs are doing right now, so there's a good chance that we may get a visitor or two for my dogs. All right, with that being said, great topic here today. This topic, again, is driven by, like many of my podcasts, are driven by some of the experiences and conversations that I have each and every week in the clinic. So that's one thing I think gets lost in all of this, that so much of what I get to share with you guys is because I'm seeing it during the week. And these drive these topics. So I don't necessarily have these preconceived big marketing plans of how I'm going to run my podcast. Really, it's more of what do I think is relevant of the conversations that are happening for everyday people like you and I. What are the things that I could do to bring to you to make things just a little simpler? And again, if I ever say simple, I do not mean easy. Those two words are a little bit different. Health is designed to be simple. We are amazing. Our creators got it right. They made us in the eyes of perfection. We are a healing machine. Miracles are happening every single day. The reality is we got to get out of the way. And hopefully with this Health Made Simple podcast, I'm always just helping you lean into that category. And today's topic is very much in the same conversation. And this is about testing, really. And my question to start all of this is, should we know? Do you want to know what's going on with your body? Should we be in the know? How much of the know should we be in? Do you even want to look? What happens when we do look? So I'm going to break this down in a couple different ways here today. So think of this: to know or not to know. It's almost like that. I forget which movie it is yet. There's a line. It is something along the lines of the truth. You want the truth. You can't handle the truth. I want to break that down when it comes to understanding a little bit about our health. So the first parallel I want to make here today is the parallel between our health and our wealth. And I won't spend much time on this, but I think it's very important for us to at least recognize that our health and our wealth aren't that much different. So we know with our health, with our wealth, if we pause, no matter what age you are, and you look at your bank statement, you look at your financial statements, you look at your bank account, and you just project forward and you go, with what I'm doing today, where am I going? If I keep doing what I'm doing today, where am I going to end up? At what point am I going to retire? And when am I going to have the luxury of having an additional amount of finances to have some security, some safety, some freedom? And we should. Now listen, I get it. Those things are sometimes hard to look. So often what people do is they don't look. And they push that down the road as if someday it's going to get easier, as if someday all of a sudden they're going to make more money, change their spending habits, etc. Folks, this is so close and so identical the way that it parallels our health. It's very, very true. A lot of times we just don't want to look. I'm going to hopefully persuade you a little bit differently today and give you some value and really what to look for in that conversation. You know, when it comes to our health, often we don't want to look. Very similar to what happens with our wealth. We think one day down the road, oh, I'm going to make some changes. I'm not going to eat like that. I'm not going to drink as much alcohol. I'm going to get some better sleep. I'm going to feel more rested down the road. I'll get rid of those 3 pounds, those 5 pounds, those 10 pounds, those 25 pounds. Next thing you know, we're swimming in this debt of poor health. And I see it all the time. We see it in our country. And by no means am I making any judgment by any one of us. But listen, if we're gaining weight over time, we know the outcome of that. It's just harder down later in life. And I'll share with you a couple labs that we know lead to some not so good outcomes. And then I'm also going to show you the power of understanding, the power of knowing exactly where we are at any given time. It gives us some direction of what is the best action we can take next. All right, so that being said, is there a parallel very closely to our health and our wealth? And for those of you who might be like, well, I'm wealthy. Here's the other interesting thing. Are you really wealthy without being healthy? And this is interesting, and this is probably a different podcast, different question, but are you really wealthy if you don't have your health? And here's what I know as a healthcare practitioner for the past 30 years. When you start losing your health, when people lose their health, no matter what age it is, they will give up all their wealth for their health, which tells us the most valuable thing that we have is our health. And I know you guys hear this all over the place. You just got to do a gut check right now and say, do I invest in myself? Do I take time for myself? And really what it means when it comes to health, it is this, folks. It is delaying gratification. That's it. That's what it means to be healthy. You have to be able to delay gratification, meaning that you put down the cup of coffee, you put down the cake, the sugar, you put down the food that is instantly gratifying, the yummy, the thing that makes it instant gratification. Maybe it's the alcohol, maybe it's the drug, maybe it's the medication, it might be pain medication, but somehow we remove instant gratification for long-term investment with our health and our wealth. All right, with that being said, let's shift to kind of the second part of this conversation, which is the power of knowing. So I'm gonna give you a quick example. The other day I had a gentleman in, he's in his mid-40s. We run a complete, what we call a comprehensive male panel. So I have these 2 lab panels that I've been working on probably over a decade or two. When I say working on, we just keep tweaking the data that we're gaining so we gives us an opportunity to make better and better decisions and strategies, really. We have one for males, one for females. I'll make sure there's a link in below if you guys want to, if you're interested in that. Anyways, gentleman comes in, he's in his 40s, and first time he's running labs in a while. Someone said it's a good idea. I don't even know how he found me. He finds me and says, hey, I understand you run some labs. Let's run some labs. We do that. We sit down for a consultation. In the consultation, and he has no major issues. Here's the interesting part. No major issues. He's just checking. And this is a paradigm that we really, really want to start to change when it comes to labs and checking on our health. Typically, we check to see what's wrong. He was looking to see what he could possibly do better, which was really, really cool. Anyways, so we check his labs, and sure enough, he's pre-diabetic. And I almost expect that to be that way, unless someone's literally working on removing the pre-diabetes from their lives, because we grow up on carbohydrates. So I expected. I was pre-diabetic until I found out that information and then took very specific strategies to remove it. So here's the cool thing. After this, now we put him on a strategy right now, immediately, to start to become non-diabetic, to become a healthier version. Because if you're pre-diabetic, we know the end result. Your future's going to be tough. It is. We're going to downregulate human function, your ability to move, your ability to think, your ability to enjoy the life that we all love having, the ability to give, to love, to serve, to be creative, to have motivation. All of these things are decreased when we start to have dis-ease in the human body. And diabetes is dis-ease within the body. And we check many things. We check the daily blood glucose levels. We check insulin. We check insulin resistance. We check hemoglobin A1C. And when we look at all these things, we can be very, very specific about how important this is right now and what steps to take next. So anyways, this gentleman now is on a path. So now he knows he has data. It's like looking at the bank account. What do I need to do? So he goes to work a little bit harder. And what did it mean for him? Yeah, we had to cut out some of the carbohydrates. These simple carbohydrates after dinner for him, he thought were no big deal. He's been doing it for a long period of time. He's kind of slim. He's not overweight. He thought he was getting away with it, but his labs showed us something other. He showed us that he was in debt. And now all of a sudden we have different strategies. I could go on and show you and explain probably 1,000 different examples of people changing the direction of where they're headed. 1 degree, 5 degree, but over 5 years, over 10 years, over a decade, you end up in a completely different direction. If you're in your 40s right now and you have pre-diabetes, which I did, even though I worked out every day and had what I would consider a pretty good diet. If you have pre-diabetes, 2 decades of that, and you have real problems, big problems, and most likely you won't have symptoms along the way until those symptoms are real diseases in the body. So that's one category of let us know that there's a power in knowing. That's where we run some labs and make sure that we are looking at these in this new scope, a new lens, not to see what's wrong. And that's what I would encourage a lot of us to do. Most likely, if you've run labs, it's because something didn't feel good. Something wasn't going well in your life. Something was wrong. So then you check to see what could be wrong. I get that. And that's probably the most traditional reason people use labs. Yet I would also encourage you to, let's not wait. Let's not wait until something goes wrong in order for us to make some observations and just do kind of an analysis of, like, no different than we would make an analysis of your financial statement. Let's make an analysis of your health statement. Let's look at some detailed labs that tell us exactly where you are headed. And then, of course, we have to have strategy. And all of that being said, without action, none of this works. So I was also received a set of labs the other day from a gentleman who took the labs 1 year ago. He got the results and did nothing with them. And when I got the results, he said, "What do you think about these?" And my first thought was, they're a year old. What do you want me to think about them? They showed me what was taking place last year. I asked him, "Did you change anything?" He said, "No, I didn't change anything. Why not?" And the reason is because they would have required him to change things with his diet. That was the truth. He was looking for some other magic pill, some other magic wand. And I will tell you, folks, again, I 100% believe that health is simple because your creator created you perfectly in the eyes of perfection and you can overcome anything, but I'm not saying that it's easy. We are going to be lured in many different ways our entire lives to eat the sugar, to eat the cookie, to have the instant gratification. And it's going to require some discipline. It's going to require some hunkering down. It's going to require some different behaviors from all of us. And they're always going to be tested. I'd love to tell you that all of a sudden you eat right and it gets easier the rest of your life. I don't think it does. I still have the 40 years prior to me kind of changing my diet. I still have those 40 years built within me. Those paradigms, those ideas, those concepts, those fallback behaviors are still there. So I have to flex the discipline on a regular basis. And I believe that to be true for all of us. So do I believe that we have to continue to put our best foot forward every day and flexible discipline? Yes. And all of this, it always boils down to action. So if you're going to gain information, you decide after listening to this podcast, I want to know where I'm at. Where can I make improvement? Awesome. And then when you get that data, that information, the ultimate gold is when you take action. All right. Last part of this I want to kind of talk about, and that is to be curious, but not to be afraid. And hopefully this comes across in a way that you understand what I'm trying to say here. So the human body is a healing machine. And when we test, often people are very nervous. And I understand that because we believe that these tests were for the doctors and the people in the white jackets, and they have this knowledge that you don't have, or this information that you don't have, and you don't know how to handle unless they tell you exactly what to do. And what I'm telling you is this, is use your data, use your labs as an opportunity to be empowered, not in a state of fear. So yes, can we discover some things that you might not want to hear? Could you discover you have prediabetes, you have diabetes? Could you discover you have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? Yes. Could you discover that you have other issues going on? And could it be a little bit intimidating or fearful in the beginning? Yes. Anytime we test, we have to ask the question, if I test positive for blank, X, Y, or Z, what will I do? And the reality is some people panic. And just that mental strain, unfortunately, creates more problems down the road. And I'm going to tell you, do not let that part of it interfere with you getting more knowledge. Do not let that part of it interfere with having more data to make you the best version of yourself. So if you're going to collect data, know that there's a possibility, a high possibility, strong possibility, that it's not all going to look perfect. So let's use our labs, let's use our data as a way to get better, stronger. So no different than go to the gym. Don't go to the gym just because you're overweight, or just because you don't want to be sick, or just because you're not feeling strong. Go to the gym to become stronger, to become healthier, to become the best version of yourself, not just to avoid certain things. So I know it's just a little bit of a nuance with words, but to do labs just to see what's wrong is probably not a great idea. Yes, they're an analytical tool that we can all use, but when we use them to empower ourselves, that becomes the magic. So be curious, not afraid. Be curious where you can make improvements with your health. Be curious where you can level your game up. Be curious what results have showed up over the long-term actions that you've taken so far. All right, folks, with that being said, to know or not to know, and I think the answer is to know. It gives you clues on what to do next so you can continue to be the best version of yourself. Well, I hope that you guys are able to hear this podcast. If you can see me, you will see my little man with me. This is Dr. Bob. We regularly run labs on Bob so we can see where he's moving. And I tell you this, by knowing the information, the data, we can always, by knowing the information of where we are, it makes the future look really bright because we can know we can take actions and how to move forward into a place that we want to be. With that being said, folks, make sure we take deliberate action for your mind, your body, overall wellness. Y'all be awesome.